Very good, bright and happy morning to all my dear students. Hope you all are fine. Today we'll be start doing in the communicative English. Today we'll start lesson number 4. This is a new lesson and a lovely lesson because it is related to chocolates. And I know that you all love chocolates very much. So today you will know how the chocolate is made, from where the cocoa comes from which the chocolate is made, and what is the process of getting the chocolate out of cocoa, how many different flavors of chocolates you get, then what is the difference between the different types of chocolates that we get and we eat today. So all about knowing more about chocolates. So please read this lesson. I would like to tell you, every one of you, each one of you, that whenever we start a new lesson, I am explaining the lesson in the video, but I want you all to read this the lesson at home with your parents. If you're not able to read on your own, take the help of your parents or your elder brothers or sisters and read the lesson, so you will enjoy the lesson more when I'll explain. So you will get the whole story. What is the story that will be in your mind? तो आपके दिमाग में अच्छे तरीके से बैठ जाएगा कि इस लेसन में क्या स्टोरी है, कौन कौन से कैरेक्टर्स है इन द स्टोरी के अंदर, और आपको ईजी रहेगा व्हेन यू आर राइटिंग द एक्सरसाइज और यू आर डूइंग द क्वेश्चन आंसर्स ऑल्सो, एंड यू विल गेट मोर इंटरेस्ट in knowing about the stories also. So now we'll start our work. So we'll start our work with today's date, 21/10/2020 and classwork. What is the name of the lesson? Love That Chocolate. This is your lesson number 4. Now first, starter kit. Now in all the lessons you all have seen that there's a starter kit. So in this also we have, all the children love to eat candies. What is your favorite candy? Work with your partners in the group and make a list of the different candies you and others in your group love to eat. Now you all love to eat the candies or the chocolates that we have. Different type of candies are also there and different types of chocolates are also there. What is your favorite one? That you have to write and make in group and discuss about your favorite candies. You have to write here the names of some of the chocolates or the candies that you like. A few of them are given here, like Gems, Mentos, Melody. Then I have written Dairy Milk, 5-star, Silk. I think Silk, 5-star and Dairy Milk are the favorites of all. Then there are many nutty chocolates also available in the market. Nowadays a lot of varieties of chocolates and candies are available. Now we'll start the story. Now get set. I want everyone to read each and every line of this lesson. The interesting, because it is of your interest, the chocolates. Often children twist their nose away from milk, but drop a spoonful of powdered chocolate into their milk. They will snatch the glass from your hand and gulp down it at once. The best birthday gift they would love to have is a box of candies or chocolate bars. Not only children, even the grown-ups love the chocolates for its mouth-watering aroma. Now, how does all this chocolate come from? Now, you all know that when it's time to take the milk or to drink the milk, children don't like drinking the milk. But when you put a spoonful of the powder in the chocolate flavor, everybody will be ready to drink because they all love chocolate. In some form or the other form, they all love the chocolates. And basically, the chocolates are made out of milk only, using a milk and then sugar, milk, then certain flavors they add. So cocoa powder is added. So but if you add the chocolate flavor to the milk, they all will snatch, means हाथ में से खींचना, will snatch the glass of milk, and gulp means एक साथ एक ही सांस में जिसको पी जाना हम बोलते हैं, they will drink it at once. So that will be the best birthday gift. What is the best birthday gift for the children? Is a box of chocolates or candies or different chocolate bars that they love to eat. Not only children, but even the adults also love to eat chocolate because there's a special type of aroma that comes out. That's a lovely aroma that attracts everyone, and it's quite mouth-watering. Means मुंह में पानी आता है जब हम chocolate का नाम लेते हैं. Dairy Milk है, 5-star है, special the Silk chocolate, which is very tasty. So we all feel that we love to eat the chocolate. Whenever we see the chocolate, we have a temptation of of eating the chocolate. Even the grown-ups also love to eat. So naturally the children would definitely love to eat the chocolates. So, but from where does this chocolate come from? That we are going to study on the next page, which is on page number 34. The to page number 34, the chocolate crop. How do we get the cocoa from the crop? Chocolate comes from the cacao tree, which is grown in the tropics. It grows the best in the coastal lands. The chief producing areas are West Africa, the West Indies, and the South America. More than half of the world's cacao production comes from the West Africa. The trees are grown from the seeds and have to be raised carefully as they are very delicate. When young, they need protection from direct sun and wind. They are provided the shade of other trees, which also acts as the windbreak. Now we'll start from here. Chocolate comes from the cacao tree, which is grown in the tropics. Now, there are certain regions which are called as the tropical region, which lies between north and south of the equator, which is not going into too much of detail because it is a geographical thing, but it grows in the tropical area and it grows best in the coastal lands. What is the meaning of coastal lands? The lands which are close to the sea. तो वहाँ पर जो है बहुत अच्छे से ये चॉकलेट्स के जो कोकाओ ट्री होते हैं वहाँ पर ग्रो करते हैं. As you can see, this is the tree of a chocolate cacao tree from which we get the cocoa beans and from which it derived chocolate is derived. The tropical areas are West Africa, West Indies, and the South America. These are the three major cocoa producing countries, or the chief cacao producing countries in the world. In the entire world, these three countries produce the maximum. And of that, more than half of the world's cacao comes from the west of Africa. Means Western Africa produces more than world's half cocoa production. The trees are grown from the seeds. Now, as you all know, all the trees grow from the seeds. But when they are too small, the plants are too small, they have to be raised very carefully because they are very delicate. That means बहुत ही कोमल और बहुत soft ऐसे होते हैं. तो उनको they are given the protection from direct sun and heat. Means that those small plants should not get direct wind and sun. Otherwise, they will die. They will not survive. So they are grown near the shades of the big trees or other trees which are growing. They are grown under that shade so that those trees acts as a windbreaker. Means directly that wind does not come to those small plants which are very soft and delicate. So they are grown in the shade of the other trees. Supposing this is a plant, so here in the shade of this tree the other small plants of chocolates are grown, cacao are grown, so that they don't get direct sunlight or the direct wind in. They don't come in direct contact with sun and the wind. Otherwise they will not survive. Cacao trees do not bear their full crop until they are about 12 to 15 years old. When grown on plantations, they are pruned to 25 feet. In the wild, they can grow up to 50 feet and live for about 60 years. Now, cacao tree does not bear their full crop, means until they become 12 to 15 years of old, of that tree does not become 12 to 15 years old, they do not bear any type of fruit or flowers on them. When grow on plantations, means what is the meaning of plantation? When grown on plantation, that means when you have a large piece of land. Plantation means when you have a large piece of land and the same type of crop. Supposing if it is a coffee, then the whole land coffee is grown. If it is tea, then entire land the tree is grown. So that way the plantation is done. So it is grown up to it grows up to the height of 25 feet. मतलब कि जब अगर इनको उगाया जाता है तो ये जो है 25 feet तक इनका हाइट हो जाता है. पर when they grow wild, दैट मीन्स अगर इधर उधर उगते हैं तो ये अब तक 50 फीट तक भी हो सकते हैं. एंड दे लिव अप टू 60 ईयर्स. दे हैव अ लॉन्ग एज ऑफ 60 ईयर्स. So otherwise if they're pruned, that means if they're cut, because when the plantation is done, that means they're grown by the people, or the certain people look after them daily. They go and they see what is the condition of the plant, how the plants are surviving or not, and then they see if they grow to a certain height, then up to 25 feet they keep the plant, but above 25, as the plant grows about 25 feet, they start cutting the branches of the tree and keep the height. They trim the plant and keep the height up to 25 feet. Otherwise they can grow up to 50 feet and live for about 60 long years. A feature of the tree is that the flowers grow on the trunk, not on the branches of the tree. The flowers grow throughout the year. Now once the flower starts growing in the cacao tree, what is the speciality of this cacao tree is that the flowers don't grow on the branches. Normally what happens in a tree, the flowers always grow on the branches of the trees, but in this plant, in the cacao plant, the speciality is that the flowers grow on the trunk. This is the trunk part. You can see those cacaos pods over here. So the speciality is that they grow on the trunk and not on the branches. And once the flowers start coming, once the flowering starts, the plant flowers throughout the year. It is not that 3 months the flowering season is there, after that whole year no flower is going to come out, but once the flowering starts, the entire year it flowers and gives the pods of cacao. On to the next paragraph. When the fruit is ripe, large reddish brown pods hang all over the tree. It takes about 6 months for the pods to ripen. The ripe pods are 6 to 10 inches long. Each pod contains 20 to 40 seeds or beans that are about the size of an almond. Now what happens after the flower comes? After the flower comes and the fruit starts coming out, the fruit becomes ripe. Hamisha, whenever when the from the flower the fruit comes out, and the fruit, when it is small, it grows big. When it grows big, it is small, it is raw, and when it grows to a particular size, when it comes to a size that it wants to attain, then it starts ripening. So in this case also, when the fruit of the cacao tree ripens, it is very large, reddish brown in color. There are the pods. They are called as the pods. जैसे मटर की फली होती है ना, वैसे इसमें भी फली जैसा होता है, which are called as the pods, and hang on the tree. You can see these pods hanging on the tree. They are reddish brown in color. You can see the single pod which has been shown. Now each pod. And it takes about 6 months for pod to ripen. That means once the pod, you can see the pods on the tree, then it takes nearly 6 months, which is a pretty long time for the pods to ripen. That means to mature. And the pods are about 6 to 10 inches long. What is the size of this pod? The size of this pod is from 6 inches to 10 inches. And each pod contains, now each of this pod contains nearly 20 to 40 seeds or beans that are about the size of the almond. The size of the seeds that are there is at the size of the almond. मतलब बादाम के साइज के इसके अंदर 20 से 40 सीड्स जो होते हैं एक पॉड के अंदर होते हैं, और इनका साइज होता है from 6 inches to 10 inches. Moving on to page number 35. There are usually 2 harvests during the year, one large and one small. The pods are harvested whenever they are ripe. The picker uses a sharp knife to cut the ripe pods from the tree. The pods are collected into heaps and then split open in order to remove the beans. At this stage, the beans are covered with thick white pulp. They don't have the same mouth-watering flavor you discover when you bite into a chocolate cookie. A lot of processing is needed to get what marvelous chocolate tastes. Now what happens, there are 2 harvests, मतलब के twice in a year you get the pods that you see on the tree. Twice in a year this happens that after flowering the pods come and develop, because nearly it takes 6 months for a pod to ripe. So obviously in 12 months there can be only 2 harvests, मतलब कि 2 बार जो है साल में इसमें से pods पेड़ में से हमको मिलते हैं. One is the large harvest, another is the small harvest. The pods are harvested whenever they arrive. It is not necessary that in the month of July only all the pods will become ripe and we will take that harvest. Whenever the pods become ripe, they are removed from the plants. So the pickers have the person who picks up the pods from the plant are called as the pickers. The pickers use a sharp knife because they are so hard that they have to use the sharp knife to cut out the pods from the tree, because the shell of the shell of the pod is very hard to, so that they have to remove this from the tree, they have to use a sharp knife. The pods are collected into heaps, मतलब कि जितने भी pods होते हैं उनको एक heap के form में collect किया जाता है, and then the split open, and then they are then split open in order to remove the beans, and then they are cut into 2 pieces like this. This is the pod which has been removed from the branch of from the tree, not from the branch but from the trunk of the tree. Then this is the way they are split, means उसके दो parts में divide किया जाता है, and this you can see the seeds. These are the seeds which are actually the cocoa seeds. Now these seeds are removed and then it is dried in the sun. There's a lot of processing that has to be done before they are ready to use. So from this the seeds are removed, and when at this stage the beans are covered with a thick white pulp. So at this time you can see this whitish part. Normally if you will think that it is a cocoa beans, it should be brown in color, but it doesn't happen. When you split open this pod, then you can see the white, there's a white pulp around these beans. They don't have the same mouth-watering taste as you find the flavor in the chocolate that we eat, or the chocolate cookies we eat. These white pulp, the pods which are covered with the white pulp, they don't have any such taste when you bite that you get in the chocolate or in the cookies. At a lot of processing is needed to get the marvelous chocolate taste. So after the pods are to be removed from this, after the seeds are removed from the pod, they are taken for processing, and there's a lots of processing that goes on before it is ready to eat. Now how the processing is done, now we'll study about that. First of all, the pulp has to be removed from the beans. The bitter tasting seeds and pulp are heated or placed in the hot sun. The heat turns the pulp into liquid that is drained from the beans. After the beans are thoroughly dried, they turn a dark chocolate color and are shipped to candy factories all over the world. The flavor from these beans is similar to the sweet smell of chocolate in a candy bar. However, the beans are not ready yet to eat. Now what happens after the bean is removed? The pulp is removed from the beans, and you might not be knowing, but the seeds of the coffee are quite bitter in the taste. मतलब कड़वे होते हैं coffee के seeds, जो cocoa seeds होते हैं वो काफ़ी कड़वे होते हैं. So they are bitter in taste. So the bitter tasting seeds and the pulp are heated, and they are heated, either they are heated or they are placed in the hot sun so that they dry completely. The heat of the sun, what happens when the heat of the sun falls, or when they are heated artificially in the machines, the pulp turns into liquid, and which is the pulp liquidifies, and then that pulp is drained out from the beans. From the beans, then the pulp is extracted once it comes in the liquid form. After the beans are thoroughly dried, when the beans are totally dried out, they turn into dark brown color or dark chocolate color, and then they are shipped to the candy factories. And the flavor of beans is the same as we get in the mouth-watering chocolates, but still these beans are not yet ready to eat. So what happens is, from the beans, what happens is the pulp is removed from the seeds, and then A pulp and the seeds are then placed in the sun, or they are heated artificially too, so that the pulp turns into liquid, which is then drained out or removed from the beans. And after the beans are thoroughly dried, the color of that seed, the color becomes, they turn into dark chocolate color, which is normally we see the color of the chocolate is, and then they are sent to the chocolate factories or the candy factories, and now their flavor is the same as we eat the chocolate, but still the beans are not ready to eat because they are quite bitter in taste. Now, chocolate at last. When the chocolate beans arrive at factories, they are cleaned thoroughly. Then they are roasted in a revolving oven, which cracks them. The shells are removed with the help of the current of air. Now we are left with the edible piece called nibs. The nibs contain about 54% fat called cacao butter. They are ground between the rollers, which free the fat, which is called as which are brown, of a brown color. Now what happens once the chocolate beans arrives in the factories? They are thoroughly cleaned. That means they are washed properly, so that there is no dust or anything left in that, so that the taste of chocolate does not get changed. Because it's a eatery product, you have to be very careful when you are doing such things. So they are cleaned properly through the machines, and everything is done with the help of the machines. Nothing is done by hand or manually. Then they are roasted in a revolving oven. Then after they are cleaned properly, or they are washed with water, then they are roasted in the oven, so that all the water in that dries up. So they are roasted in the revolving ovens, means that the ovens keep on rotating all the time, which cracks them also. When they rotate, then they hit the oven and they crack it out. So they which cracks them, means उसको जो है उसके अंदर cracks हो जाते हैं, उसको दो हिस्सों में divide कर देते हैं. The shells are removed with the help of the current of air. Then the shells of the beans are covered with the shells. The cocoa beans are covered with the shells. Then those shells, once they are cracked, दैट मीन्स उनको जो है ओवन के अंदर रोस्ट करते करते उनको इतना रोटेट किया जाता है कि वो ओवन से हिट कर करके वो क्रैक होके अलग हो जाते हैं. तो उसमें जो सीड्स होते हैं, जो शेल्स होते हैं, वो अलग हो जाते हैं. और जो सीड्स हैं उनको अलग करने के लिए क्या करते हैं, शेल्स को जोरदार करंट ऑफ एयर इज ब्लोन इनटू, दे आर ब्लोन इनटू करंट ऑफ स्ट्रॉन्ग करंट ऑफ एयर, सो दैट द शेल्स आर रिमूव्ड. Now we are left with the edible pieces called as the nibs. Now whatever is left is the edible part of the cocoa, which is called as the nibs. Now these nibs contains about 54% of the cocoa butter. Now these nibs contain the fat, which is also called as a cocoa butter, which is now also available in the market as a cocoa butter only, and which has become very popular also in many of the dishes, like you make sandwiches and certain dishes, international dishes, cocoa butter is used quite commonly. And that cocoa butter is also extracted with the help of the rollers. So they are grounded. The seeds are then grounded between the rollers, which free the fat, which is of brown color. That means now the seeds, to remove the fat from the cocoa fat from the seeds, they are taken between the rollers, and then that rollers, they're squeezed between the rollers so that the fat is removed from the seeds, and which is also of the brown color, because the seeds are brown in color. Once they get ripened, they turn into brown color. When they are dried in the sun, slowly the color changes and they become brown, chocolate brown in color. So the butter that we extract from the seeds is also brown in color. Now my dear children, there are a lot of hard words in this lesson, a little bit lengthy, so we'll be doing this lesson in the two parts. Now first part is over. I'll give you the hard words to write and few of the meanings to write, and there's a small opposites, one exercise of opposite that you have to write.